Picture this. You're camping in the middle of the Pine Barrens during a still January snow. The cool winter air seems to hang in the trees around you, and the light that escapes their branches gives the snow a slight glow as you settle in for the night. The quiet and still forest around you lulls you into the sleep that you've craved for the last few hours, and as you watch the embers of your fire slowly disappear, you begin to shut your eyes. Suddenly, you hear a snap. In the still of the night, you can't tell what direction the sound comes from, or how far away it might be, but that's just the beginning. You hear twigs snapping and branches rustling almost all around you as though something large was making its way through the trees toward you. And then you see them. Two red eyes up in the branches above. You get up and leave your camping gear behind and break off into a sprint. The slight glow of the snow helps you dodge the trees for the most part, but as the branches lash at your face and you begin to notice that you hear something other than just the rustling of the trees, something like large beating wings. You continue to stumble your way through the woods and you come upon a clearing. In the moonlight, you can see what looks like a shed, and with no better options, you rush inside to find whatever you can to barricade yourself in. As you begin to settle in, you hear a thud on the roof of the shed, which is followed by hard, definite footsteps. For the next several seconds, minutes, hours, you sit there waiting for some figure to crash into the shed and take you away. But as you begin to see the sunlight, you strain to hear any sign of the creature. Yet the forest is once again silent. As you make your way out of the shed and look on the snow around and above you, you're astounded by what you see. Hoofprints. DJ?
El Matha Cabra.
Oh, Martha Cabra. No.
No. Alright. So, here's the thing. Red eyes, flappy wings. I know that guy. I've met that guy. He's the Mothman. But we've already talked about Mothman. So I'm shocked if we're talking about Mothman again. You do like him, though. This 13 weeks of Mothman.
No, so I've realized in studying a lot of cryptids is, regionally speaking, a lot of them have very similar characteristics.
Sure.
And so, as you can see, I'm wearing a Mothman shirt. I've got Mr. Moth behind me, which DJ made for me for my birthday, by the way. And it would seem similar to the story of Mothman. However, that is not what we are talking about. But before we get into what we are talking about, let's go ahead and just introduce
Introduce
quick.
the episode. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything But the Cats. We are the only show. I'm DJ.
And I'm Gage.
And yeah, we are the entertainment that is still around. So you're welcome. If you haven't already guessed it, today we're going to be talking about something that is not the Mothman, but is Mothman adjacent. Butterfly Man. Today we're going to be talking Batman. There are options, y'all. So we're going to be talking about something. So if you don't know, this is the beginning of a series. I've never had to introduce a new sermon series like in a church before, but this must be what it feels like. We're in a new series where we'll be talking about mostly Gage, will be sharing with me about various cryptids. We're going to do it for 13 weeks, just during the summer, because summer, is famously the spookiest season of them all. So it'll be good. It's where it's still super bright out at like 9 p.m. So that's when the chupacabra gets to chupacabin. So I think it's going to be a good time. I'm excited to hear all about this faux Mothman and anything else. Is there anything that I'm missing, Gage?
So for those of you who are interested, this is a series we're doing called Creatures Unseen. It is going to be cryptids, hauntings, and other things that are unexplainable. Things that we're just going to talk about that are in that realm. And if you are interested in joining us for one of these episodes, that's a train you really got to get on fast. But the idea is going to be to do this for 13 weeks, and we're just going to have fun. If this is something you're interested in and you enjoy these kinds of things, please go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the episodes that we have coming up throughout the rest of the summer. But also give suggestions for other ideas, because these are topics that we definitely come back to. Definitely when we do baby archive type episodes, we will come back to this kind of stuff. And I will do my due diligence to have the best research I can on some of these things. Believe me, A lot of this goes deeper than I expected. But today we are talking about a specific cryptid. Before we get into this cryptid, I guess I'm going to have to name it by saying some of these sources. I want to name my sources up front. The first source is Publications International's Book of Mysteries of the Unexplained. The second is Aaron Mahnke's The World of Lore, Monstrous Creatures. The third is Lauren Coleman and Jeremy Clark's Cryptozoology A to Z. The fourth is J.W. Auker's The United States of Cryptids. The fifth is a 1976 New York Times article, A Monster of Our Own. And the sixth is Brian Regal on the Ben Franklin's World podcast in reference to his book, The Secret History of the Jersey Devil.
I wondered.
So,
I know nothing about it, but I wondered.
That is what we'll be talking about today, is the Jersey Devil, which is one of America's oldest and most famous cryptids, other than perhaps the one that's on my hat and maybe even the one that's on my shirt. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive in. Before we get into the cryptid, I want to talk a little bit about the area that the Jersey Devil calls home.
Real quick, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Picture this. It's a cold night. You're settled down for camp. You can see the light through the snow or whatever. When all of a sudden you hear it. I'm flying here. Get back across the river.
It's the Jersey Devil.
Have a sense of urgency.
Then it throws a brick through your window. It just has way too much hairspray or hair gel and a fake tan.
Oh man, I could get trapped watching Jersey Shore back in the day. I judged my sister hardcore, but then I'd step into her room, be like, "What's this stupid show?" And then 3 hours later, I'm still standing there fully engrossed in it.
Same.
I could watch the Jersey Devil for hours.
So could I. We're gonna get into it a little bit. So, the Jersey Devil is a cryptid that is native to a very specific part of the United States. Now, we did an episode a couple of months ago on the Mothman, and it's one also that generally is in a specific area. But the Jersey Devil calls this place home. It's called the Pine Barrens. Now, on the east coast of the United States, there's a lot of big cities. There's a lot of touristy beach towns and a lot of industrialization. It may come as a surprise then to hear that New Jersey is home to the Pine Barrens, which is a protected area of coastal pines that's completely undeveloped. It's over 1 million acres, and it's the largest undeveloped area of land in the mid-Atlantic seaboard. Now, I don't know what the mid-Atlantic seaboard is, but I assume that for the people who do know, that means something. Yep.
I bet.
The sandy and acidic soil in the area is bad for growing crops, but it is fertile for an amazing collection of trees and other kinds of brush. And the underground aquifers are estimated to hold more than 17 trillion gallons of pure drinking water. The area is rich in natural resources, which makes it ideal for shipbuilding, iron ore processing, and glass making. Don't know how that one came in there, but it did.
Sand?
Yeah. But it's also really remote and isolated, which makes it perfect for moonshining. During the Prohibition, it was a huge place for moonshiners and was also used as a dumping site for the mafia, which were very active just a little bit north and pretty much everywhere, actually. Today, the Pine Barrens exist as an extremely large forest with sporadic ghost towns and a lot of room for creatures and the unknown. Also of note, because of one of the things that this area is famous for, are some of the other names given to the Pine Barrens. So apparently the local native tribe of the Lenape not only believed that mysterious creatures lived in the Pine Barrens, but they also referred to the area, and I am not going to pronounce this right at all. It is spelled Popuessing. Popuessing or something like that. And it means the place of the dragon.
Hey.
And the Dutch explorers who named this area themselves when they were exploring, they referred to it as Drake Kill. which means dragon river. So I didn't look up any of these, but I did put them in my notes. The Pine Barrens are home to many unexplainable creatures. To name a few, Big Red Eye.
That's when you take an early flight.
The Hoboken Monkey Man.
That's just Ted. Like he lives here.
Undocumented species of large cats. The Cape May sea serpent. The Lizard Man of Great Meadows. And most famously, the Jersey Devil.
Of course.
So DJ, do you know anything about the Jersey Devil?
Okay, I've heard a few things. There's like a theory that like the devil impregnated some woman and now there's his little devil man that flies or something, I guess. I don't know. Am I thinking the right thing? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Kind of.
Sure.
So we're what the order of operations, I guess, is I want to talk about the traditional origin story of the Jersey Devil, go through some of the sightings, the historical sightings of the Jersey Devil, and then talk about what it could be, as well as some kind of like a conspiracy thing that goes along with that, and then some of the pop culture things that it's involved with today. So
love it.
Let's talk about the origin story. So before there was New Jersey, now this cryptid, the Jersey Devil, is actually older than the United States of America as a country. And it is a story that has technically been around since the colonial period, maybe even before. So that's something that's really interesting. Now, the story that we have today definitely started during the colonial period.
Picture this. It's a cold winter evening. You're camping. The light through the branches or whatever. You hear, I'm colonizing here.
Yeah. So before there was New Jersey, there was West Jersey.
Interesting.
And before there was Leeds Point, New Jersey, which is a very important city that we're going to be talking about a lot today. There was Burlington, which still exists, but Leeds Point, Burlington kind of both get thrown into here. So Burlington still exists, like I said, but that's kind of beside the point for what we're talking about.
It's like a coat factory now.
Yeah. And before there was the Jersey Devil, there was the Leeds Devil. Anyway, as the story goes, there is a Quaker family called the Leeds family. A real family, by the way, and we're going to talk about them more in a little bit. Now, this family, the Leeds family, moves to the colony of West Jersey from England, and they settle on the southern coast of the Pine Barrens. They take root quickly, and before they know it, they have 12 children. Yep. Mrs. Leeds.
Before they know it, at some point along the way, I would become suspicious that we're getting close.
Within, at most, 12 years. There could have been a couple twins, triplets, or something in there. I don't know.
It's fair.
But Mrs. Leeds discovers that she's pregnant with her 13th child and exclaims in frustration, "Let this one be the devil," or something along those lines. As is common in tales of monsters, there came a dark and stormy night in 1735, night when the child was to be born. When the child was born, he came out deformed, having a long, horse-like face, wings like a bat, a serpent's tail, and long, thin legs ending in hooves. As soon as the child gets its bearings, it viciously attacks all of its siblings and parents and the, not doulas, but the women who were there to help.
Yeah, like nurse.
Yeah, nursemaids. Potentially devouring them? It kind of changes based on the story.
Mm-hmm. What are those called?
I think nursemaids.
I don't think
Maiden nurses? Doulas.
Angela. Midwives.
Boom. Midwives. So it potentially devours them, depending on the story that you're listening to. Definitely attacks everybody in sight before it escapes through the chimney to the Pine Barrens, where it still lives today. That's a very short version of the traditional Jersey Devil story. Though this is kind of a skeleton, there are other details depending on the source that you get it from. Every town in the Pine Barrens, and even some of the others in the surrounding area, kind of has their own story of the origins for the Leeds Devil. They they're all roughly the same, but they have some different details sprinkled in there. For instance, there are some who argue that the original story is about a woman named Mrs. Shroud instead of Mrs. Leeds, though otherwise the story is pretty much the same. I don't know the significance of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
In one story, this devil is the child of a colonial woman and an English soldier, which back then was a big deal because, you know, not Civil War, the Revolutionary War and stuff. In some versions of the story, she's a devout Quaker. In others, she's a witch who dabbles in the occult. Some stories don't mention any other children, though most do mention that he was the 13th.
Picture this. It's the middle of winter. You're giving birth to your 13th child. You're a little exasperated by this point because you've just birthed 12 others because, like, all of a sudden you have 12. And so you say out loud, I hope this one sucks.
Yeah, 12 wasn't enough. I hope this one's awful.
Yeah, I honestly, raising 12 children is too easy right now. I need a handful.
Yeah. Some stories specify Leeds Point, which is funny because it wouldn't have existed at that point. Or at least they specify what would become Leeds Point. Others mention Burlington. In one story, she ends up protecting the child and keeps it for a number of months or years before it finally escapes. In some stories, in most stories, it escapes as soon as it's born. And it's even 50-50 on whether or not he even attacks the family members. There is one story, though, that bears all the normal signs of the others with one major divergence. In one version of the story, the child is born looking normal, and he remains so until his mother holds him. And that's where he begins to transform into the Jersey Devil.
Skin to skin.
Yeah, it's that skin-to-skin contact. But though there are many iterations of the story, all of the major story beats are pretty much the same. A woman in 1735 gives birth to a devil of a child that escapes into the Pine Barrens. And one common theme throughout all of these stories is striking for as specific as it is. The appearance of the child. Having the long face of a horse, the tail of a snake, wings of a bat, and long legs that end in hooves. Have you ever looked up a picture of, like, the Jersey Devil?
No, I'll do it right now.
It's a goofy looking thing. Like, look up original drawing or something like that, because it's also the hockey team.
That's fair. Adding original drawing is adding so much time to this.
Oh man, some of those are bad. It's the goofiest looking one.
Oh, it's like a fairy. But like an ugly fairy. That looks ugly. It is goofy.
It's a goofy looking thing.
Yeah.
Anyways. So that's the origin story of the Jersey Devil. The origin story doesn't make a lot of sense if people haven't seen the Jersey Devil. So we're going to look at the earliest known written account of the Jersey Devil. Now, this is probably the most controversial of the sources we're going to talk about. And believe me, most of these sightings have a lot of controversy to them. So in October of 1790, so this would have been decades later, there was a woodsman named Vance Larner, who apparently... Vance Larner.
Sorry.
The reason I say there's controversy to this, well, I'll tell you about that after I say it. So there was this is an actual quote from his diary, essentially. He would apparently encounter the devil and wrote this paragraph in his personal journal. It was neither beast, nor man, nor spirit, but a hellish brew of all three. It was beside a pond when I came upon it. I stopped and did not move. Nay, I could not move.
Nay. Horse face.
It was dashing its tail to and fro in the pond and rubbing its horns against a tree trunk. It was as large as a moose with leather wings. It had cloven hooves as big round as an oak's trunk. After it was through with the tree, it yielded an awful scream as if it were a pained man, and then flew across the pond until I could see it no more. So this is what he wrote about it.
Okay.
Apparently, he would go on to tell anybody who would listen to him about this creature. And this is where some people believe the origin story of the Jersey Devil came from, is that people heard this story and started to come up with, okay, so what is this creature? And they started calling it the Jersey Devil. Now, I have reason to believe that that's not where it originated, but again, we'll get to that later. Unlike the rest of the sightings and reports, this story is almost impossible to verify historically. The diary itself is called into question as a reliable source because there are historians that outright deny that it existed at all. I don't know where this comes from, unless someone just said they had it.
Yeah,
Because
like a news article or something.
Yeah, because nobody. That's actually where I got it. Was a news article from the 1970s. That's where I got it.
I will say, like, if there's anything I've learned from this show that we do, I learned it during the Bummer and Lazarus episode, which is that newspapers will make up any. Like, back in the day, it was a free for all.
Yeah.
For both what would pass as news and, like, what the editorial standards were to call something truth.
And this is even 100 years before that.
Yeah, they had no standards back then.
But yeah, no, this is. I even had to find it in a 1970s New York Times article. So there's that. But anyways, there are historians who outright deny that the diary existed at all, let alone that it works as a viable source for a sighting of the Jersey Devil. And I only was able to find the one article that referenced it anyways. One of the other sources that I'm going to rely on heavily later in the episode, he outright says that it is the worst piece of evidence for the Jersey Devil, which is just funny. But anyways,
get wrecked.
The second major sighting was by a slightly more reputable source, allegedly. According to legend, this is the hard part about this one. Yeah. According to legend, in the early, I just couldn't find a historical document that said it, but every single source I read references this story. So it had to start somewhere, but I just couldn't find where it started. But according to legend, in the early 1800s, Commodore Stephen Decatur, which is a famous naval officer who was and still is well respected in naval terms, reportedly saw the Leeds Devil for himself. He was at the Hanover Millworks inspecting cannonballs and cannons, test firing as it goes. He spotted a strange creature flying over the forest that was large and oddly shaped, like nothing he had seen before. And according to the legend, like any true American, he promptly aimed a cannon at the beast and fired.
Dope.
He knew what he was doing. According to the story, he hit it. Like, you could tell that the cannonball hit the target, but to his surprise and the surprise of the others present, whatever it was just kind of kept flying. So that's the earliest, somewhat reputable source talking about it. There's a ship named after Stephen Decatur, even. Like, he was a real dude. And
I just looked into him.
Like a real legendary tale ascribed to him. But is it legendary in the sense that, like, it happened, or in the sense that, like, I cannot tell a lie, I chopped down the cherry tree? You know? Yeah. Who knows? Similarly, this name, I want you to tell me why it sticks out to you. Joseph Bonaparte.
So I feel like I've heard the name Joseph before somewhere. How's this guy related to Napoleon?
It's his brother.
Okay.
So
that's a way less cool name.
Yeah, I know, right? So Joseph Bonaparte, the brother of Napoleon, had been made king of Spain in 1808, abdicated after 5 years. I don't know why, but he did. Probably because his brother got exiled. I don't know the timeline of all that.
Same.
He then moved to a large estate near the Pine Barrens called Breeze Point, where he would live for about 20 years. One of his favorite pastimes was to hunt in the Pine Barrens, and on one such hunting trip, he was following an odd set of tracks that looked as though they belonged to a donkey walking on two legs. He noted that one print of the two looked like it was noticeably larger than the other. He followed the tracks to a clearing where they stopped, as though the creature he was following had vanished completely. Turning around to leave, he was stopped dead in his tracks by a loud hissing noise. Just imagine that, though. Like, you're in the middle of pine trees and you hear, I'm imagining like a
It's
cat
winter.
hiss.
You're camping.
It's winter, the light, the snow, trees, whatever.
And you hear it.
I'm hissing here. I'm a...
I'm Jersey Devil.
But yeah, he heard the loud hissing noise, and he turned back to the clearing to see, in his own story, face to face, a large creature with bat-like wings and the head of a horse. Before he could gain enough composure to shoot at the beast, it flew away. He later told this story to a local, and they exclaimed that he had faced the Jersey Devil. From then, he made it his goal to kill the beast himself, but was unsuccessful. According to this story, based on just some of the stuff around it, that means that the stories of the Jersey Devil already existed by the time that he was there in the early 1800s. So throughout the rest of the 1800s, however, there would be sparse encounters. You know, somebody sees an odd creature flying overhead. They find unexplained hoof prints on their roofs. Livestock goes missing or is killed with no obvious predator. But nothing that sparks the attention of many happened during this time. But at the turn of the century, in 1903 to be exact, there was a folklorist named Charles B. Skinner who commented on the seeming disappearance of the Jersey Devil, saying, and I quote, "It is said that its life has nearly run its course, and with the advent of the new century, many worshipful commoners of Jersey have dismissed, for good and all, the fear of the monster from their mind." So this dude's just like a folklorist. That's a profession. I understand it being a profession now, like talking heads on documentaries or something. But even in 1903, apparently, it was a profession. Great. And Charles Skinner in 1903 essentially said that the Jersey Devil has probably died by this point, and at very least, he's out of everyone's mind. Yeah. Little did he know that just 6 years later, the Jersey Devil would make everybody well aware that he was here to stay. 1 week in late January of 1909 would be so full of sightings and encounters with the Jersey Devil that it would go down in history as the Week of the Devil. In the early morning hours of January 16th, 1909, a shadow hung over the towns among the pines. And all hell, it appeared, was breaking loose on the East Coast. A man named Thack Cousins, was taking a moonlit stroll early in the morning outside of Woodbury, New Jersey, when he noticed something overhead blocking out some stars. Upon looking closer, he could see the figure gliding through the air, and one thing stuck out above all else: its glowing red eyes. The same morning, residents of Bristol, Pennsylvania, claimed to see something similar, but these encounters were more personal. Postmaster E.W. Minister claimed he saw and heard the creature, describing it as crane-like, with large wings and the horned head of a ram. He noted that it had a harsh scream and even glowed with some kind of unnatural light. John McOwen, a local liquor store owner, claimed he saw something eagle-like hopping around in his yard, and he described the scream as a mix between a machine whistle and a record scratch. That could have just been an eagle. A police officer named James Sackville even shot at the creature, but didn't hit his target. Throughout the day, there were multiple other reports of strange hoof prints being found throughout the two towns and the surrounding areas. The next 2 days, January 17th and 18th, Burlington, New Jersey would see a rash of sightings and encounters. People claimed that they would see hoof prints on their roofs. They would follow tracks on paths that would just up and vanish, as if the creature flew away. And police attempted to use dogs to help track the scent of the creature, but the dogs were terrified and refused to follow the tracks. One particular family, the Loudons, found that their trash can had been knocked over and their trash rummaged through, and there were tracks surrounding it, and those tracks were hoof prints.
That's just the Hoboken Monkey Man.
That's just Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who wears hooves. Yeah.
That guy.
That guy. That's just Mr. Tumnus.
Good old Mr. Tumnus.
Again, the next day, January 19th at 2:30 in the morning, Nelson Evans and his wife were awoken by a loud scream outside of their house. They eventually worked up the courage to look outside and were terrified by what they saw. I have seen two separate accounts for what they apparently saw, and I can't really tell which one is true. In one account, they were face to face with a creature that they described as 8 feet tall, with a head like a collie and a face like a horse. Now, I don't know how that works.
How they were face to face with it?
No, like it was outside their window. So, like, I mean, it was looking in their window, is how I assume that works. But, like, the head of a collie, but the face of a horse.
Uh-huh. It's a good question.
I feel like that's just the face and head of a collie.
It looked like a smart dog with two big dumb eyes.
Yeah. In this account, it was peering into the window at them, and Mr. Evans opened the glass part of the window to scream at it, and it barked at them before flying away.
I think they may have just seen a collie.
Just a very tall collie.
Winged.
A very tall winged collie. The second account has them seeing a creature on the roof of their shed. They described it as being about 3 feet tall, with the head of a horse. It walked on 2 legs and had claw-like hands against its chest, kind of like a T-Rex, leathery wings, and a long serpentine tail. They managed to frighten the creature away after watching it for about 10 minutes. In both of these accounts, 2 professional hunters followed the tracks later in the day, reportedly for up to 20 miles, and based on the tracks, they believe the creature could not only fly or leap great distances, but they also believed that it could squeeze through tight spaces and under fences. Either way, they came up empty-handed. Gosh, this week was so crazy.
Yeah.
The following day, January 20th.
Was on day 3?
That was...
Day
yes,
4.
16, 17, 18, 19. That was day 4.
Okay.
The following day, January 20th, a Burlington police officer and a local minister stated that they saw the creature as well. A hunting party formed to catch the creature, claimed that they saw it flying toward Moorestown, where it was seen at the Mount Carmel Cemetery. From there, it was seen flying toward Riverside, where hoof prints were found around a dead puppy. Multiple other towns in the area were put together hunting parties by now, and at some point in the past couple of days, this one I couldn't find like when it happened, I just knew it did. Trenton, New Jersey's city councilman E.P. Whedon. My name's E.P. Whedon.
And E. Doobie Whedon.
He was awoken by something beating at his door and the sound of wings.
That's definitely the Monkey Man.
I was just like, what do wings sound like? Like,
Yeah. Flip, 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 flip.
Airplanes go overhead all the time, dude. They don't sound like that. They sound like...
What if airplanes had wings, though?
They do.
Yeah, that's true. Flappy wings, Gage.
Anyways, yeah, so
That's really funny.
I lost track of it. He looked outside, saw what appeared to... Now, here's the thing. I don't understand. He looks outside and says he sees bipedal hoof prints in the snow. How do you know they're bipedal if they're hoof prints? Like, I know that hunters can tell if something's on 2 legs or not, typically, because they learn to study the tracks. But the city councilman, this New Jersey city councilman, is just like, those are bipedal. Those hoof prints out there? Bipedal.
Someone else is like, what the heck does that mean? You better see a doctor about that.
The Jersey Devil's just like, I'm walking.
That's funny. I'd be curious too. Like I need to go find some animal that can do both and see if I can figure out how many legs it has.
Yeah. You're just going to be like, this animal had 6 legs.
I know it's more than one, probably.
It uses 2 sometimes and uses the other 4 other times. Anyways.
I don't know how you know that.
Other Trenton resident... Oh, go ahead.
No, never mind. I don't know.
Other Trenton residents claim to have heard strange screeches in the night. They saw strange hoof prints or even saw a creature flying overhead. So Trenton had a lot of activity.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. So people thought that this was the end of the world. Businesses were closing down. Schools were telling kids to stay home. People were making hunting parties in every town. But this was not yet the climax of the week. On January 21st, there would be a spike in activity.
Do you remember when we had like a chemical hazard day in high school where we had to like, it was maybe even just that we like, there was a chance we were going to have a chemical hazard day where we'd like have to go home early so that they could like clean out the chem lab properly. Yeah. So like our high school, we either did have or almost had like a chemical hazard day where they sent everyone home because they were cleaning out the chemicals in the lab, and if something went wrong, like the school would blow up or whatever. Picture if we had like a Mothman day. Like, Mothman's probably the fairest day to have. Like, yeah, he's been hanging out over at the stadium, so we're just gonna kind of cancel the football game.
Yeah, that's the most valid response to seeing Mothman around. Hey guys, stay at home for a few days.
Mothman is on social media posting pictures like, don't go to school tomorrow. They're like, hey Mothman, what up? You alright?
So the businesses were closing down, schools weren't meeting, people were making hunting parties. And then January 1st, we see a spike in activity. It starts with a trolley full of passengers in Clementon. Now, trolley, have you ever gone on the Fort Scott trolley? Did you ever do one of the trolley tours? I don't think I ever went on a tour. I feel like in high school we did like a Christmas light thing on it once. I don't remember if that was like a school sponsored thing, if that was a church thing, or if I just ended up there. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But anyways, they were doing like a trolley, and a trolley full of passengers in Clementon watched a winged creature circle above them. The Black Hawk Social Club.
That's dope.
Reported their own sighting. A Collingswood fireman saw it up close and turned his hose on it. And then later that night, Mrs. Sorbinski in Camden heard a noise outside in the dark. This one's kind of sad, actually. She grabbed her broom and she stepped outside to see a mysterious beast trying to catch her dog. She beat at the creature with her broom until it released her dog and flew away. Never mind, this is not the dead dog one. A crowd gathered because she was screaming, and they all claimed to see the creature flying off. They tried to chase it, and there was a couple of police officers who managed to fire off some shots at it, but it got away. And then the next day, the 22nd, silence.
From that dog.
In fact, pretty much nothing happens again until sometime in February. There was an electric worker who claimed that he saw something large flying overhead as he was working, and it flew into a power line, causing an explosion so large and hot that it melted the tracks beneath it.
Yikes.
Nobody was discovered. However,
good for him.
And this makes no sense to me. So this is in February of 1909, right? The people making a case for the Jersey Devil put these two stories together.
Sure.
And it does not make sense to me. You'll understand in a second.
Yeah.
This flying thing went into these power lines, exploded, demolished.
Yeah.
Some New Jersey conservation workers found a corpse of an animal in the Pine Barrens that was a jumbled mess of feathers, mammal bones, and long legs, and it looked as though it had been scorched and burned. The only problem with connecting these two stories is that this happened in 1957.
That's funny.
It has been nearly 50 years.
Yeah.
And people are...
Maybe it was a separate incident.
Maybe, but people connected the two stories. Like, this is how I wrote my notes, but I was reading an account that was like, Yeah, and they saw this and they're like, maybe that's the thing that flew into those power lines in 1909. And it's like, I mean, maybe
He got better.
it got better. And by that, he didn't completely decay, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
was this the death of the Jersey Devil? Perhaps.
No.
Probably
Perhaps.
not.
No. I've been promised a dead dog, so.
We'll get there. But these kinds of things have a tendency to pop back up, even if we think they're long gone. Here we go.
Like acne.
Sometime in 1987, there was a strange thing that would occur. In Vineland, New Jersey, an unidentified woman claimed that her German Shepherd had been killed during the night. The body, or what remained of it, was found 25 feet away from the end of its chain, and surrounding the remains was a series of hoof prints.
I mean, that could just be an angry goat.
It could be. They do eat literally anything. People still claim to see the Jersey Devil today, but the stories are a bit more spread out and less specific than the ones we've already discussed. For example, a lot of people claim to see the Jersey Devil, but the story they tell is like, that's a Bigfoot, bro. Or they claim to tell they're like, oh yeah, I saw this thing. It looked like a wolf standing on two legs. It's like, that is a wolf man.
That's a wolf, man.
That's a wolf, man. But there is a major question that remains. The creature has been spotted, and the descriptions, other than a few varying ones, generally are all the same. So, what is the creature haunting the Pine Barrens? I've got some theories.
I mean, it's the Hoboken Monkey Man.
It is the Hoboken Monkey Man.
Yeah.
The Hoboken. So, what could the Jersey Devil be, you might think? Well, the descriptions of the creature vary greatly between one another, though there are some shared characteristics. It is hard to say for sure. It could be a Pine Barren native Bigfoot. Could be.
Not the drawing I looked at.
Nope. It could be some kind of a prehistoric creature. That's possible.
Sure.
It could be the devil. Here are 7 of the most popular theories as to what the Jersey Devil is. Any guesses real quick?
I mean, you just gave me 3 of them.
Yeah, I did.
So beyond those 3, just like a real ugly dude. Like just a real mess of a man. And then similarly, just like your average New Jersey guy.
Just
so
some Guido out there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so these are not necessarily in order from most popular to least popular or anything.
Sure.
I just kind of threw most of them up here except for the last one. So one theory is that it's a great horned owl. The descriptions could be compared to a great horned owl, just with a heightened sense of adrenaline and the fact that most of these sightings happened at night. They might think that it's bigger or scarier than it actually is. That's one of the theories that goes along with like the crane theory for the Mothman, is that like when your adrenaline is pumping, things seem different size than they actually are, stuff like that. And they've tested that theory by putting like a 3-foot tall sign on the side of the road of a Mothman, and they had people drive past it, and people were reporting that it was anywhere from 3 foot tall to 10 feet tall, depending on how susceptible they were to like the fear triggers and stuff like that. So like that is a thing. The second, an African hammer-headed bat. Look this thing up and tell me it doesn't look like the drawing of the Mothman.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, the only problem is they're like super tiny.
It's the largest bat in continental Africa.
I don't know how big it is. I just know it's a lot smaller than 8 feet tall.
Wingspans approaching 1 meter.
3 feet? Okay. Yeah. It's possible. I don't know how an African hammer-headed bat
Oh, for sure.
ended up in the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
But that is a theory. Number 3, an undocumented or prehistoric creature that was once frozen.
Oh, like the hit film.
Yeah. Some people think it could be that. It could be an undocumented species of bird that was local to the Pine Barrens. The New York Times article, 1976, that I referenced earlier, actually put forward that it could be just some prehistoric animal that thawed out over time. What are you seeing?
I am seeing a picture of a hammerhead bat that is large, and I'm going to send you the link right now.
Okay.
I think we've cracked this case. I don't know what it's doing here.
Also known as the winged moose.
Look at that beefy boy.
Oh my word. Yeah, that could be it.
If I gave birth to that thing, I would be livid.
If I saw that thing outside of my house at 3 a.m, I would think,
Shoot a cannon at it.
I'm sleeping here.
I hate this guy.
Golly, that's kind of terrifying, actually. Anyways, so it could be a prehistoric animal that thawed out. The New York Times article in 1976 said that they were going to give a $10,000 reward to anybody who could give them concrete proof as to what the Jersey Devil was. The fourth theory, and this is potentially my favorite theory, not aliens,
Love that.
a dragon.
I love that too. While you're telling me about the dragon, I do need you to pull up this other link because it's very important.
Okay. Oh, that's
Look at
kind of
that
cute.
idiot.
That's like a derpy, cute little thing. Anyways,
Yes.
the physical descriptions of the Jersey Devil kind of make sense for a dragon. It's got a long face, it's got leathery wings, sharp claw hands that are small, long legs, and a tail of a serpent. That kind of fits some descriptions of a dragon. Like I said, the Lenape tribe actually called this area the place of the dragon, and the Dutch explorers referred to it as Dragon River. So it could be that there was some kind of a tall tail of a dragon in the area, but it is of note that if that was the case, this is not the only tale of dragons in the colonial era of the United States even. You've got snallygasters and other things like that that were reported in different areas of the colonies during that period as well. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, sure.
Fifth theory, a devil, a demon, some kind of a demonic influence. I don't know how or why,
Yeah.
but that is a theory.
Seems like a waste of his time.
Yeah, that's why I say a devil. Like maybe it's a demon or something. A waste of his time, honestly.
Yeah.
From the Screw Tape letters, why reveal yourself?
There's some demon out there somewhere that's like, what the heck? That's my best work.
Number 6, it's collective thoughts, like some kind of a collective delusion or something, or maybe that's possible. I don't think that one's as likely, but it is possible. And then 7th, a total sham. From start to finish, it's a hoax.
Okay.
And I'm going to explain to you how. Well, I'm going to take a couple of different stories and put them together really quick to paint a larger picture.
Sure.
So remember the rash of sightings in 1909?
I remember the sighting of rashes.
Okay, good. Well, I found 2 separate sources that claim that that was a hoax.
Okay.
So, but both of these claim that it was a hoax for 2 very different reasons. And I think to a degree, both of these reasons could have been like in cahoots with each other. So Ivan T. Sanderson, which was a big voice in the world of cryptozoology, either worked with Lauren Coleman, who's the author of one of my sources, or just gave Lauren some evidence showing that the Jersey Devil sightings were mostly faked in a real estate scheme. They claimed that they had found the fake legs used to make the hoof prints, and that there was evidence that some real estate or urban development company had planted stories in local newspapers to create fear, and that fear led people to having more sightings, and those sightings would encourage people to sell their houses at lower costs. The real Scooby-Doo stuff right here.
Yeah.
Like,
very Scoob.
the rest of the sightings would have just been factors of the overactive imagination and fear from the hoax, according to this. Similarly, At the same time, Gordon Stein, in his Encyclopedia of Hoaxes, alleges that it can all be chalked up to a museum in Philadelphia going out of business. Now, Norman Jeffries was a publicist for the Arch Street Museum and was also allegedly a known hoaxer. According to this account, and with some information I found elsewhere on top of it, he and a friend may have come upon a live kangaroo. They may have painted this kangaroo green and may have attached cardboard wings to it. Maybe they put antlers on it too, and maybe they put stories in the local newspapers so that they could sell tickets for people to see this kangaroo at their museum. Maybe, allegedly.
So did this happen?
Allegedly, yes. The part that's alleged is the planting the stories in the newspapers.
I see.
The part that is almost certain is that they painted a kangaroo green, put fake wings on it and antlers, and sold tickets to people to see the Jersey Devil at their museum.
Picture this. You're camping. It's winter. Trees, whatever. You hear, "G'day, mate."
I'm Australian. So these two stories call at least the 1909 sightings into question. I would say it's probably safe to take most of the 1909 sightings and to pretty much say almost all of it is probably a wash at this point. But even if everything here is corroborated and it proves that all of the 1909 sightings are false or based on mania, this doesn't account for the other sightings that we discussed before and after 1909. However, there is another metaphorical wrench to throw into the cogs in this story. The original story is a misunderstanding of real life history. Let me explain. In the 1600s, people were moving from England to the American colonies for many reasons. One of those reasons was religious freedom. This was especially true for groups like the Society of Friends. Who are they more colloquially known as? Quakers. Generally, Quakers believed that Christians should ignore human authority and that the only authority that truly mattered was that of Christ through his word. Yeah, essentially, they believed that like church authority was bad, government authority was bad.
I love Quakers.
I kind of do too. As I was reading about this, I was like, I kind of dig them. They did some stuff I don't really like, though, and we're going to get to that.
I'm Googling them.
They were nonconformist, kind of libertarian in some ways. Generally, they believed in just letting people do as they would, unless they were Quakers. But we're going to get to that. Boston was home to the Puritans. Puritans hated the Quakers. England was home to the Anglican Church, which also hated the Quakers. So the Quakers ended up in West Jersey, because obviously, where do you go if everyone hates you? New Jersey. One such Quaker who made his way over here was a man named Daniel Leeds. He and his wife Jane moved to the area around Burlington, West Jersey, and they lived their lives as generally faithful Quakers. But Daniel wanted more for his life. He wanted to be known for something intellectual, something greater than himself. This was all during the Enlightenment, and Daniel Leeds wanted to bring some of that stateside. So what do you think he did?
Had 13 children.
Wrote an almanac. The Leeds Almanac was first published in 1687 by William Bradford, another Quaker, but it included alchemy, astrology, and other things that the Quakers were not fond of, and the rest of the church was iffy on it anyways. So the leaders of the Quakers in West Jersey bought every single copy they could find, and they burned or otherwise destroyed them. Not long after this, Daniel Leeds writes something called the Temple of Wisdom, again printed by William Bradford, and the Quakers, yet again, buy every copy they can find and destroy them. This upset Daniel... Go ahead.
This guy has sold out twice.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty dope.
This upset him to the point where he gives up on printing the almanac for the most part, and instead becomes a political attack dog against the Quakers.
Yikes.
He leaves the Quakers. I'm pretty sure he becomes Anglican. I can't confirm that part, but I'm pretty sure he becomes Anglican. And he and the Quakers start trading blows through pamphlets, articles, and books, essentially tearing the other down. He claims that they're dishonest, that they're untrustworthy, that they're cheats. As the revolution approaches, the Quakers begin to claim that he and his family are siding with the English to turn other colonials against him, among other things. And this all comes to a head when one Quaker apologist refers to him as Satan's harbinger. Now, today, this may not sound like a huge diss, but back then, this was one of the worst things you could probably call somebody, was to say, you're in league with Satan. You are his harbinger. And it was a powerful accusation, and this led to some people referring to him, Daniel Leeds, as the Leeds Devil. A few years later, and so this is just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like they're making fun of him, calling him the Leeds Devil.
Sure.
A few years later, Daniel passes off his passions to his son, Titan. What a cool name. His name is Titan Leeds. Hope he doesn't go looking for the Titanic. Knee slapper. They just released a documentary. They knew it was going to implode. Anyways, Titan continues the Leeds Almanac and picks up a decent following. But around the same time, Benjamin Franklin moves to the colonies, and Benjamin Franklin wants to start his own almanac. Now, you've probably heard of Benjamin Franklin's almanac.
I've never even heard of Benjamin Franklin.
The Poor Richard's Almanac?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember anything about it, but I remember its existence.
Yeah. So, like, that's what he wanted to start, but he recognized that his biggest competitor at the time is the Leeds Almanac. And he also recognizes that he can sell more copies if he just starts throwing out some random stuff. Basically, like you said earlier, you can really just post whatever you want in the newspapers back then. Franklin starts to say some funny things in reference to Titan. He claims that an alchemist he was friends with said Titan was going to die on a specific day. And Titan, either not understanding that it was a joke or wanting to treat it seriously, responded seriously. And then Franklin continued to egg him on by saying stuff like, I know my friend Titan wouldn't respond that way. Perhaps someone has possessed him. Or perhaps this is his ghost. Things like that. Even making jokes and comments kind of around the idea of the Leeds Devil at this time. So Titan was unable to wrestle back public opinion, and the Leeds Almanac faded into obscurity. Basically, there's like 1 or 2 copies in existence today of any edition of the Leeds Almanac. Fast forward to the 1840s, roughly 100 or so years later, and people don't remember the story behind the Leeds Devil, but they do remember the name. And chances are the name just got lumped in with the Lenape tales of creatures in the pines. There was a woman interviewed at this time named Hannah Butler who made an offhand remark about the Leeds Devil in the interview, but she refused to say more about it. Our best estimate is that people would see or hear things that went bump in the night that didn't really make sense, or they would have livestock that would go missing, and they would remember hearing about something called the Leeds Devil that they heard like their grandparents talking about or something, and they would just attribute it to that. Over time, due to the location being New Jersey, the Leeds was mostly dropped and Jersey Devil was born.
It's like their own personal Bowman 5.
Essentially. So, what started out as a political and religious slander turned into a cryptid that would become an unofficial state mascot.
That's the Bowman 5.
It just really makes me kind of wonder what our great-grandchildren will attribute to the Orange Man or Sleepy Joe.
That's funny.
Again, this doesn't discount all the sightings that we have accounts of, but it certainly adds some interesting flair to the original tale. So, where does that leave us today? This is my last paragraphs. My last 2 paragraphs. Sightings have persisted throughout history. Even today, people still claim to see the Jersey Devil. But seeing is not all there is to do. The Jersey Devil has even made a name for himself in pop culture. The Jersey Devil has taken on an unofficial state mascot role for the state of New Jersey. It is the mascot for their National Hockey League team. I think it's National Hockey League. NHL.
Sure, yeah.
It's made appearances in a PlayStation game called The Jersey Devil. TV shows like X-Files and Supernatural, movies, and other forms of media. There's a roller coaster called the Jersey Devil in Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson Township. And the devil was even nearly the focus of one 2015 episode of Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown.
Nice.
Yeah. In the specific episode, he went to a diner called Lucille's County Cooking in Bernegat, New Jersey. This diner is home to a wooden statue of the Jersey Devil, and they have something that's called the Jersey Devil Burger that they serve during lunchtime.
Love that.
He asked locals about the legend and their own sightings before concluding for himself, "That sounds like My Little Pony with a forked tail. That doesn't sound frightening to me."
That's so good.
And that's the story of the Jersey Devil.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing, Gage. That's a good story. I'm excited for all that lies ahead.
I can guarantee you right now, I think I put like 15 hours of research into this episode alone. I don't think I'm doing that with all of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I was just like, there was so much to it, and I was like, man, I gotta go deeper. And I did, especially with all that stuff about Daniel Leeds and whatnot. Anyways, that's the Jersey Devil. Is there something in the Pine Barrens? Maybe.
Trees.
There's definitely trees. There's probably even the Hoboken Monkey Man. Definitely. Not even probably. Definitely. He's out there. Big red eye. I still need to know what that is. Anyways, that is the Jersey Devil. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. DJ, do you have any final words on the Jersey Devil?
I'm looking up the Monkey Man. In the early 1980s, the story involved rumors of a half-human, half-monkey creature terrorizing children by attacking them, throwing them out of windows, and even allegedly killing a teacher. However, official reports confirmed that these claims were entirely false.
Okay. New Jersey, full of fake cryptids.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like so it mentions, like, despite the lack of evidence supporting the existence, the myth persisted due to local parents using it as a scare tactic to promote safety among children. Classic, tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Don't go outside, the boogeyman will get you. Don't go into the woods. I don't know.
Don't go by the river, La Llorona will pull you in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you live in New Jersey, like, you don't need to use the fake stuff. Like, don't go outside at night. Fat Tony will turn you into salami. Like, it's a real threat.
What's the girl's name from Jersey Shore?
Snooki.
Don't go outside. Snooki's out there. Did you ever see the South Park episode that made fun of her?
No, I'm sure it was great.
It was horrible. Like, disgusting.
Horrible. I believe that.
Hilarious, but disgusting. Anyways, all kinds of rich history behind this, and I will do my best to bring the same stuff with all the other cryptids we're going to be talking about, and hauntings, etc. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you to all of our sources for all of your lovely information. That last section was almost entirely from one specific guy. That was almost entirely from Brian Regal, and he had just a wealth of information on other cryptids as well. But anyways, I'm tired and I keep repeating myself. Thanks for hanging out. You're lovely. Stay lovely. Thank you to Adam Ward and Jared Scrother for our intro and outro music. Thank you to Jacob Casey. I'm almost certain I'm going to be playing his music actually as our intro and outro music for this little series. Sweet. So thank you to Jacob Casey for intro and outro music and just for being a part of this process. We don't need to do what we're into unless you want to.
I've been doing the Bible recap. It's a book that you can, it's a Bible in a year plan, but there's also a book and a podcast and stuff like that, so you can like read along and see here's what you just read, and then also there's some that has like another book that has like study type questions as well, but a lot of the questions are like kind of intense. Like things that require outside study that I don't have time for when I'm like kind of quickly doing it at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go get a commentary and read up on this specific word. What does that make you feel? Which is great. Love that. Ain't got time for that. But I've I've only been doing it 2 days, and so far it's been good. I'm trying to develop a love for scripture because it's just not a thing that exists in me, but it's a thing that I want to exist in people. And if I want it to exist in people, I know it needs to start in me. And so, trying to grow a hunger for it by engaging with it more purposefully, I guess.
I have been into the Sinajoki crocodiles, a American football team in Finland that our friend Deante Sip plays for. They had their first game a couple days ago as of recording, so
Nice.
about 2 weeks ago as of this releasing. And their season is probably in full swing now. A lot of their games will be able to be streamed on YouTube. And yeah, that's just pretty cool.
That's great. Well, as always, go and thank yourselves, or Fat Tony will turn you into salami.